Fear Not, Episode 86. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. You're productive, no question. Sometimes you're flying faster than a tornado, but to what end? It's like there's no practical link between your long-term goals and your daily tasks. But what if there was a tool to keep your goals visible all year long and helped you stay focused on the critical next steps to accomplish them? Well, there is. Michael Hyatt's approach to work is day by day, week by week, and quarter by quarter. His new Full Focus Planner connects the dots and lets anyone put this approach to work for them. It's like an insurance plan for achieving your goals. Ever since I've started using the Full Focus Planner, it has helped me to stay focused and reach my goals. It complements my digital calendar and has replaced all other organizers that I was using. It facilitates easy goal tracking and review, so I never lose sight of what matters most to me. It prioritizes my tasks, so I'm always maintaining momentum on the activities that will help me to reach my goals. It optimizes my weekend for maximum rest and rejuvenation. It goes with me everywhere I go, from my studio to the coffee shop to the park, wherever. The Full Focus Planner will equip you to plan your year, design your day, and achieve your biggest goals. Want to receive a 15% discount on the Full Focus Planner? Visit livingbeyondyourfears.com and click on the Full Focus Planner button on the sidebar. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Dr. Aziz Agazipura. Hey, Aziz, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me here.
Dr. Aziz is a confidence coach and author of multiple books, including The Art of Extraordinary Confidence. He grew up shy, nervous, and awkward. And it was this state of being that led him to spend 10 years studying and applying anything he could find about psychology, personal growth, transformation, and confidence. He received a doctorate in clinical psychology from Stanford and did his postdoctoral residency at the Student Health and Counseling Center of Portland State University. He has studied with Anthony Robbins and received cognitive behavioral therapy training from Dr. David Burns and Dr. Matthew May. Aziz, would you take a few moments to fill in the gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Sure. Well, no gaps. That contains everything from my life right in that little bio. There's so many different things to fill in, but I think the core of it is that I pursued all that training and am still training today because I'm obsessed with confidence because I struggled so much with fear and self-doubt and social anxiety. So I find the whole topic endlessly fascinating, and there's so much for me to keep learning about myself and then all the people that I work with around that. So I think that's my driving force and my mission and what I'm doing here on this planet. And it comes through in everything I do, even with my two small kids. To bring it to my personal life, I have two kids, 1 and 3. And I'm married to an amazing woman that, had you asked me when I was younger if I could even be in a relationship with someone I was really drawn to, I would have said that was not possible. They would have not found me attractive, or there was something wrong with me. So to have that relationship and then to have two amazing kids is incredible. And even with our children, I think a lot about how to communicate with them, how to guide them and teach them how to contain their impulses. So the 3-year-old's not whacking the 1-year-old all the time, but how to do that in a way that doesn't fill them with fear and negative perceptions of themselves, but to help them be more empowered and more confident. So it comes through in really everything I do.
Can we start off by having you give us your definition of what fear is?
Sure. To me, fear is just a sensation in our bodies that has a natural impulse to want to avoid. You can't see it because it's an audio interview, but I'm kind of like hunching my arms towards my chest and kind of moving away. Like we want to retreat from something to me feels like the most core basic form of fear. And then, and the retreating is from pain, I think, and that's emotional pain or physical pain. And then beyond that feeling in our body, there's all the stuff that goes on in our heads, all of our thoughts and stories, and that are all geared around how do I avoid this and how do I make this go away and all the other stuff. Maybe thinking about something days or weeks ahead of time, but in its core, it's just that moment of discomfort.
Since having confidence is such an integral part in facing and overcoming fear, I was hoping you could share some of the information that you've discovered on your journey and being, transforming yourself from being shy and what have you into this confident person who's actually helping other people to be confident.
Yeah. Well, because of my endless obsession with this, I feel like we could talk about so many different things and so many different areas. So maybe I'll start pretty broad, and then we can drill down into some stuff that you think would be most valuable for everyone listening today. So, at its core, we are afraid of a ton of things. I think most people hide how afraid they are, and we all learn to project confidence and certainty and authority and like we have it all figured out. But behind the scenes, people feel afraid, unsure of themselves, doubtful. That's extremely common. So that in itself is a great starting point for if you feel those things and you think other people don't feel those things, then you are comparing their outside to your inside, their persona to your real experience. And that's the first thing you want to shed, because the truth is everyone feels these things: fear, self-doubt, insecurity. That can be extremely relieving. So there's nothing wrong with you if you're feeling those things. Then the question is, well, how do we deal with that? How do we face that? How do we approach that? And there are, tons of tools to do that. The first place I like to start with people is wondering, well, what would that be for you? So what are you most afraid of in your life that you might be avoiding right now? And that's always a fun question. Everyone loves that question because as soon as we start asking that question, we're like, oh no, does that mean I'm going to have to go do that thing? Because the reason we're so scared of it is because back to that original point about pain. We're just afraid of, we don't want to experience pain. And I found that obviously physical pain is something that people are scared of. And yet, a lot of the pain that we experience is emotional pain. And that's what we're on a day-to-day basis most afraid of, is emotional pain. And that comes in the form of someone not liking you, feeling rejected, feeling inferior, like you weren't good enough in some way. These are the core sources of pain. And those are the things that I think we're scared of and we try to avoid. So I put a lot out there. Let's see what you're picking up and what you want to move towards.
Well, I think the fear of rejection, that's a pretty common one, and I think one that people think that they're suffering alone. So what advice or technique could you offer us that would help us to deal with that and not be afraid? I mean, reality is, not everyone's going to like us, but at least we won't crush and crumble under, that rejection.
Sure. I would say here's a couple of different approaches. One is really becoming more honest with how much you like yourself and how much you love yourself. And for some people, unfortunately, even the idea of saying love yourself causes them to roll their eyes. They say, oh, that's stuff. Whenever someone has that response to me, I'm like, that stuff, that self-love stuff. Like, and it's funny how we can be so hardened out of fear, and that's really what it comes from, but we're so tired of being scared and then getting our hopes up and feeling vulnerable that we decide to just get real hard and real tough. And then we roll our eyes at the idea of loving ourselves. And yet, that's one of the core reasons why rejection is so painful, is because in the moment of someone not liking us, we lose that connection with ourselves and our own perception of our value. So for example, if you really liked yourself and loved yourself and said, you know what? I'm on my own side. And it wasn't just a platitude or an affirmation. It was something you actually adhered, like lived and believed in your core. And then someone's like, hey, I don't want to date you, or no, I don't want to hire you, or oh no, I don't want to talk to you for this thing. Uh, there could be a sense of pain there, right? Disappointment, hurt, and we wouldn't turn on ourselves in the same way. And I think that's where a lot of the pain of rejection comes from, is we turn on ourselves and meet that initial little bit of pain with even more pain. Say, oh, and then we, make all these stories about our lack of worth. I'm no good. I suck. I messed that up. Of course, they don't want to talk to me. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. So I think one of the core steps to lessening the pain of rejection is to meet those rejections, because they're inevitable, with self-compassion, with self-love. And that is a skill. That's something that we can learn, and something that I call it the master skill, because if you don't have that, life is harder, I should say. And no matter how much money you earn, or how many people love you, or if you have a family, if you are critical of yourself, frustrated with yourself, hate yourself for failing, for not achieving enough, you will be miserable no matter what you achieve. So I think self-love is truly the master skill.
So where does one start in order to switch their perception and to love themselves, in a healthy and balanced way?
Sure. I think it starts like any commitment. It starts with a decision. So if someone wants to say, well, how do I get healthy? Well, it starts with deciding I'm gonna get healthy. Like and feeling a strong passion or of yes, I really want this. Because if we don't have that, just like, working out or eating, changing your diet, it's like, that's uncomfortable, forget it. So if we don't have that clear decision, so I was just meeting with a small group of people that are in my mastermind program, and we talked about that for a good hour or so. It's just this decision, I'm going to be on my own side no matter what. And seeing, okay, can we make that decision? What stops us from doing that? And then looking at, well, then we want to, like any commitment, we want to stack the deck in our favor. We want to make it look really appealing to do that and really unappealing to not do that. So, again, to use the analogy of working out, if someone is not working out and they're like, I just don't feel motivated to be healthy. It's like, okay, well, imagine 10 years from now. What would your life be like if you just did everything the same and progressed? And if people really do that, they start to feel some fear, some discomfort, which is actually good because it motivates them. And then, so that's stacking the pain. And if you want to look at, like, what would your life be like in 10 years if you did this, this, and this, and this with your health? And you're like, oh my God, I have so much energy and I'd look great and I'd blah, blah, blah. Then they associate it to pleasure. And it's the same thing with self-love. So I think, like, making that decision and looking at my life 10 years from now, and if I didn't like myself anymore, I still beat myself up for getting rejected, I still attacked myself when I didn't achieve something, I still criticized myself every time I looked in the mirror, 10 more years of that, what would my life be like? What relationships would I miss out on? What business opportunities would I pass up because I didn't think I was worth it? I told myself that I sucked and I believed it. And then feeling that pain, and then imagining what your life would be like if you truly were on your own side and you really honestly loved yourself and liked who you were no matter what. And really imagining that. Now, even if your mind's like, well, how? How is the dream killer at this stage of the game. It's like you got to associate to the vision first. Then you can figure out the how. Because if you're driven enough, you'll figure out how. But so we want to lock in that drive, that desire. A number of years ago, I made a decision, like, I'm going to be on my own side no matter what. And I'm not. I still have self-doubt or criticize myself. It still happens, but it's my attitude towards it is very different.
How so?
Well, I don't jump on the bandwagon. Whereas before, I'd be like, yeah, that was no good. Yeah, that's right. I suck. Right. And now it's more like, whoa, okay, I'm criticizing myself. I label it first thing, like, okay, this is self-attack. This is not helpful. Something I need to address something here. And then I start to just think about it differently. Okay, there's a part that's upset, and I could share more about that, about how to kind of dismantle that self-criticism. But just like, if someone's like committed to eating healthy and then they go on a bender or eat a bunch of cookies or whatever, then they're going to say, okay, all right, that was off plan. That's not helpful. Let's see how I can get back on track.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because it almost sounds, like you chart your course and it's a goal, it's a destination, and with typical goals, those things that help keep you going because it's not going to be a smooth and easy journey. So, what can you do? What do you teach your clients that help them to maintain their course and their momentum and to handle those temporary or short failures or off
Sure.
track moments?
Yeah. Well, is where we get into the skill of self-love, right? So let's say we, okay, uh, many people have constructed their lives to avoid pain of rejection and failure. You're already screwed if that's happening, right? Um, and that's what my book, The Art of Extraordinary Confidence, the whole first couple of chapters are about stories and excuses we tell ourselves to avoid what we're scared of. But when there's tremendous power in just saying, that's a story, like, oh, I can't get clients in this way, or oh, this business won't work, or oh, whatever our story is, no one would want to date me, I'm too ugly, whatever our story is, we want to drop beneath that and just say, okay, I'm really just scared. I'm scared of putting myself out there and failing. I'm scared of trying something and looking bad. I'm scared of opening my heart and then feeling pain and someone not loving me back. So when we acknowledge the fear, there's tremendous power. And uh, then we want to move into the fear, because on the other side of that is everything that we want. And then when we are taking action, we will get rejected. That will happen. You will open up to someone and they won't want to, go on a second date with you. Or you will, I don't try to do something for your business and have no one show up to your your event that you put on or something like that. Not necessarily for everyone all the time, but along the way, we have many failures. So in that instance, we want to become really skilled at self-compassion. So let's say and you could do this for, let's do relationship and business, combine it all together. So whatever you're at when you're listening to whichever one that resonates with you most, just pick up on that, because we want to get just enough to trigger your memory of that and then show you how to work with it. So it's a business situation. It could be a client or a potential partner that you wanted to work with that you had some back and forth with, and eventually they were like, no. If it was a dating situation, maybe you went on 2 dates and then they were like, no. Or if you're already married, a situation where you wanted to share something more vulnerably or openly with your spouse and they were kind of critical or pushed you away in some way. So when that happens, we get rejected and we feel pain. And this is, maybe if we become like Jedi Masters, we won't feel that pain. But I don't know when that will happen. In my experience, and a lot of people that are very successful and confident that I talk to, they still feel it. And there's a fascinating book called The Need to Be Liked, where they review a lot of the scientific literature around rejection and how it seems to trigger pain in our brains in the same centers that physical pain does. So it seems we're pretty hardwired to feel some pain. Then, though, we have tons of choice. From that moment of initial pain, we have tons of choice and say, okay, how am I going to respond to that? And what I would do is I would slow way down, because usually we feel uncomfortable feelings and we ramp way up. We get really busy. We get really stressed and need to fix some other problem. Or we go escape with the drug or alcohol or food. But I would say slow way down and actually just notice in your body where you feel that pain, because you will feel pain literally somewhere in your body. In your heart usually is where it is for rejection, your throat, Sometimes people feel like a warmth or pressure behind their eyes, which is a sign of probably wanting to cry, but we've suppressed that so much that we can't. You can feel tightness or pain in your stomach, your lower abdomen, below your navel, other places too. But we want to slow way down and find it, and then just breathe and be in that. And then, while tuning into the place that hurts the most, we want to then speak in a very slow, kind of compassionate way, as if you were speaking to a young child, which in a way you are, because that's the part of us that I think gets really hurt. And there's a skill to this too, because it's not about pep talking, like, you'll be fine, get out there again, you can do it. That's inspiring at times, but what's needed in those moments of pain is just empathy. That part needs to be seen and understood. So, you really wanted that business potential partner to say yes to your proposal. Of course you did. And then they didn't, and that hurts. I'm sorry. Yeah, you really want that. It's disappointing to not get something that you want. And then you breathe and you feel. And you're not saying those things to make the feeling go away. You're saying those things. And if you do it if you do it sincerely, with a lot of attention on your body, you will find that your body actually relaxes as you do it. And if you're doing it like to make it go away, or you're kind of impatient with it, it actually it gets more tense. But we're basically finding our way back to our own hearts and learning how to love ourselves is what this is. And you do the same thing, whether it's the dating example or the marriage example.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's been coming up a lot in some of the conversations I've been having, is this sense of not fighting it, because one of the guests had said that which persists, or that which you resist persists. And it's this concept of just actually embracing it, not trying to avoid it. And it's actually, I've been told it's very powerful. It sounds very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of the core principles of mindfulness. And you could try a ton of other stuff. I certainly have, right? It's like we want it to stop, but you just want to really check, like, can I actually make it stop? If I just willed this away, does it go away? And if it does, then use that technique. I mean, shoot, why do the other one? But for most of us, and in my experience, it doesn't. We can't just will it away. So the only sort of sane option is to meet it, is to move towards it. So one other thing I want to add about this treating ourselves with that love when we're hurting is it's just slowing down, maybe 5-10 minutes of this, which might feel like a really long time when you're doing it, but it's really not that much time. And at the end of 10 minutes, you might not feel great, but that's okay, because you can trust that 10 minutes was actually extremely healing and very different than maybe what any of us have done before, which is to ignore and to move forward and forget about it. But the problem is, when we try to just blaze through, we're just as scared the next time of that rejection. And eventually that fear piles up against us, and it becomes easier and easier to want to avoid. So every time you slow down and meet that part of you that's hurting with love after a rejection, you're actually strengthening yourself. And over time, it lessens your fear of rejection. Because so much of our fear of rejection is not that initial pain of disappointment or hurt. It's all of the self-criticism and worthlessness that we, hit ourselves with. So when we stop that, your pain of rejection actually reduces. And then so you're more bold and willing to take risks and take action in your life.
Aziz, can you explain to us this 3 level of confidence that you talk about?
Sure. So this is a great way to give you a big overview of the process that I've seen over many years of doing this stuff. So we'll start with level 0. There's 3 levels, but level 0 is you're mostly living in avoidance. That means you are avoiding most things that scare you. Maybe all things that scare you. You might not even be that aware that you're avoiding it. You just steer clear of things that scare you, whether it's putting yourself out there, starting conversations, sharing more authentically or vulnerably what you really think, being more bold and assertive and less nice, speaking up in front of groups, approaching people you're attracted to, taking risks in your business, all that stuff you might be avoiding. That's level 0. So then when you're in action, you're moving towards something. That's the beginning. That's level 1. So level 1 is you're willing to take action. This is kind of the level of the famous book by Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Love that book.
That's right. I mean, it's a great book, and it's the core message is in the title, right? It's like, so that's level 1. It's like, okay, I want to achieve this thing or go towards this thing. I'm scared. Okay, here I go. I'm going to do it anyway as best as I can. And I'm a huge proponent of whatever techniques can help us calm the fear, build up our sense of power and energy so we can go do it, as well as gradual exposure, how to take things step by step so we don't jump into the deep end right away. But however you do it, level 1 is about taking action even though you're afraid, and it's uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable before. For me, a lot of the time, it's actually more uncomfortable afterwards, where that our mind can start to fill in, did I do that right? Was everyone okay? And whatever it is, before, during, after, we can be uncomfortable. And I perceive these steps as linear, as in you have to do each one. So a lot of people are at level 0, but they want to be like super confident, but they're like, level 1, that sounds uncomfortable. And it is. So there you go. But it's the only way. And everything in life that's valuable requires, I think, some level of willing to tolerate discomfort in the short term to be able to achieve and create something and bring value in a way that you want to your life and others' lives in the long term. The second level of confidence is you still are doing what scares you, still taking those risks, but you really are mastering the stuff we've been talking about in this interview, which is this self-relationship, this way of moving through these challenges where you're not just like gritting your teeth and pushing through. You're actually really being gentle with yourself. You're being really skillful at loving yourself. And if you think about a relationship with another person, like a romantic relationship, we've all seen people who are not very skillful with their partner. They're short, or they're kind of abrupt or cruel even times, or they say things that are hurtful out of anger. And then we've also all seen people who are very skillful, where maybe they learn how to communicate in a way that's more loving. Even if they're angry or frustrated, they learn how to communicate that in a way that brings them closer together with their partner. And that's what creates an extraordinary relationship. And we want to have that with ourselves. And that's level 2. So not only are you taking that action, but then afterwards you're doing a lot of, or before and after, you're doing a lot of deep kind of mindfulness based or journaling based or something where you're really loving yourself. And what that does is that actually starts to calm your body over time. And level 3 would be fearless confidence. And that doesn't mean that there's absolutely no fear at all. It just means that the fear is massively reduced because all that self-attack stuff is not happening nearly as much. And so there's not as much to fear. And the way that I think we operate in level 3 is we're focused outside of ourselves more. We're more focused on that other person, on what we're here to do, on what our mission is, on what our purpose is, on what the outcomes are. And we're out of ourselves. And the more out of ourselves are and in something bigger, the less we have some of those fears of, will people like me and am I good enough? And I think that's the third level of confidence.
Aziz, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best place would be, I'd just say go to my main website. That's a great starting point. It's socialconfidencecenter.com, socialconfidencecenter.com. And from there, there's an ebook you can get for free. You can find out about my YouTube channel and podcast, which have tons of also free stuff, as well as anything else you want to learn about, live events, coaching, all that stuff.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
Well, I am a huge believer in action, and I think intellectual learning is only valuable in how much we apply it. And there's a lot of self-help. I think it's like feel good entertainment in a way. And what I really am most interested in is helping, liberate and activate everyone. So for everyone listening, if you're listening right now, remember that discussion that Billy and I were having about being on your own side and deciding to be on your own side. Instead of making that a theoretical, one day I'll do that concept in your mind, what if right now, as we're talking, you decided I'm going to be on my own side no matter what? I don't exactly know what that looks like and how I'm even going to, do that, but I know that I want to do that. And if it sounds good to you, then you probably want to do it on some level. So perhaps right now you can make that decision.
That's really great advice, and I want to thank you for giving that. I also want to let everyone know, too, that Aziz has generously donated a copy of his book, The Art of Extraordinary Confidence, which we'll be giving away for free. So if you'd like an opportunity to win that book, visit the giveaways page at livingbeyondyourfears.com and submit your free entry form today. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Aziz. It's been really amazing just listening to you and learning from you. So thank you for your time and your knowledge.
Of course. It's great to be here and great to speak with you, Billy.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.